Now, the college football, we've heard and discussed revenue sharing. We have discussed what's happening with any kind of breakaway with the Big Ten and the SEC. What is going to happen to the group of fives? We'll hear from Jeff Trader. We already heard from Jared Mosley. This is an interesting nugget from Ross Dellinger after a lot of the meetings have eventually wrapped up. One, Mike Oresco, remember him? He's about to leave, said that before the college football meetings in Dallas, he emphasized that college sports will need to move to a tiered collective bargaining model. The SEC and Big Ten officials are even discussing such possibilities. Is this a way to keep everybody together, but obviously the rich get richer?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way they're going to get people to agree to any of this, I guess. I mean, at least Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti and those schools in those two conferences is to do it tiered. But, you know, it is like college football to look at, like, wait till the tragedy happens and then look and go, how did it happen? And then try to prevent it when they could have done along the way. But right now, the best thing they can do, you heard it kind of from Brett Yormark, is, look, we got to take the best deal possible and then fight their way back up. But, man, I mean, everybody is just so
don't they have a tier system now?
Corner. Yeah, but like a legitimate, like they can't do this network and this conference and this. Like,
right.
Going forward, they need to negotiate for all of college football like the NFL does. Otherwise, you know, people are just going to get pushed and pushed and pushed away, and then the only games you're really going to be able to see, easily will be the ones, you know, that are in those two conferences.
So there's that. Also, Greg Sankey. Craig, what is the name of that conference that you thought would become when the two big boys get together?
I don't know. I just called it Super 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg Sankey was asked last night about the Super League. I haven't talked now. You guys tell me if you think he's telling the truth here. I haven't talked about the Super League, and I'm not going to today. The fact people have interest in throwing ideas out, that's up to them. I spend my time on what I have to do.
I think he's talking about that 70-team Super League, you know, that would be a non-starter for the SEC and Big Ten because it means they would have to revenue share more than they are right now.
Go back into conferences with teams that some of them have left.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not going to talk about that. I mean, it's thrown out there. And my question is, did the people who came up with this actually think that Greg Sankey was going to look at this and go, you know, I've got some minor tweaks, but overall I love it.
Yeah, I think people are just trying to come up with something because nobody else is. And the only other options they have is to let Greg Sankey just decide on it all, along with Petitti, and just let them do what they want, which might inevitably happen, but is not something that you just give them over willy-nilly and without some type of a fight. I don't like listening to Greg Sankey, really. I think he's just very vague on things, even though I know he knows more than what he's saying, and there's probably reasons as to why he has to be vague. But I feel like sometimes he just sort of talks in like puzzles and just doesn't say what he wants to say, but then he gets like kind of cornered on something and then he lashes out. You know what I mean? But it's like just be that way all the time so we can just get through the riddles and just get to the point. I think that's what everybody's frustration is like whatever's coming, okay, we'll all agree to disagree on it or fight over it or whatever, but can we just get an idea of what that is? And this long, drawn-out, like, just uncertainty, I think, is what's driving everybody a bit mad. And he's got all the patience in the world because he's going to be fine regardless. His leagues are going to be fine regardless, and best believe he's going to do what's ever best for the SEC and not anybody else. So I don't know why there's all of a sudden this feeling of, like, you know, he's going to be the guy guiding the way, and I understand it's partly because he's got the power to do so, but I don't for a second believe that if I'm a non-SEC school that he's thinking of my best interest.
Well,
so,
no, yeah.
You know, he's definitely a power broker. I'm not sure what that second quote even means. He clearly hasn't talked about it, so I get that part of it. I get why he won't talk about it. But, you know, yeah, people have interest in throwing ideas out because they want to get to the end of this thing, dude. Like, that's why people are interested in it. And also, it's a fantasy booking thing. It's no different than if I was the GM of the Cowboys, here's my mock draft. Here's what I would do. If I was the owner of a movie studio, this is what I would do. Everybody does that with their hobbies, right? They do fantasy booking or writing or whatever. So that's what everybody's doing in a lot of ways with the playoff, just trying to come up with something that they hope like goes over and we can move on to it.
I think the third quote is about the fact that the last part of what he said is what caught my attention.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Private equity. Outside of college sports, there are a lot of people who believe that outside of college sports when it comes to buying stock in college sports. Something is going right. I think what he's saying is right now, whether you're the Big Ten or the SEC, college athletics, and especially football and men's basketball and women's basketball is trying to get in that, at least their niche, that people are willing to spend huge amounts of money. And that right now you need to take advantage of it, whether you're Greg Sankey in the SEC or anybody else, because there are some people who want to get involved to bail out Florida State so they can do what they want to do, or to be a part of college football in another way.
I don't read it that way exactly. I think he's just saying that for the people who are screaming college football's dying or college sports are dying because there's all this money involved, that they're not right because, for example, his league's making more money than ever and stands to make even more, and probably even more with if there is even less teams and you're kind of the only show in town ultimately. So, yeah, they've already taken a huge part of the market share. The other league they're working alongside is taking another large portion of the market share, leaving very little for everybody else. Hey, that's the way it works. And capitalism and just the markets and all that, like, you can't argue with who's the most popular, who's got the TV ratings. But when I read that, I don't think he's thinking about, the American and the Big 12 and us, and we're all making – I think he's just saying in general there's a lot of money out there to be made in college sports, regardless of how you feel about the overall product. So kind of like with the NFL, I'm not watching anymore, and the ratings are going to fall, and it's going to crater, and it was absolutely just fine. They moved along like it was a bug in the way of a tank, basically. I kind of feel that way with Sankey. And maybe I'm just too paranoid about his whole angle in this, and he's definitely not alone. Like, the Big Ten is right there lock and step and trying to figure out their futures and basically the futures for everybody else in that way. But, yeah, I just think this is all about money. That's all it's about. I mean, every single quote's about money, 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 money. And so there's more money than ever out there because there's more networks than ever out there. And what's the one thing that everybody can subscribe to when it comes to getting the biggest bang for your buck a lot of times is live sports? Mm-hmm. Well, who stands to best get the benefit of that? Well, the SEC and the Big Ten moving forward in college football. So that's how I view it, at least. And maybe I'm just being too paranoid, but again, I don't for a second it seemed to think that he's thinking of the Big 12 or the American Athletic Conference or the MAC when he's making a lot of these statements that he's making.
Mosley said that yesterday. Yeah, he pretty much, that's the feeling he gets too.
And I don't want to paint him to be like this big bad guy that's like the only money grubber or the only like guy fighting for his squad or anything like that. It's just he's the most prominent one because we don't really hear from the Big Ten all that much. And then everybody else is just, they don't have the same type of voice. So I think he sometimes unfairly gets pegged as like the villain in this, but he's just doing what everybody else is basically doing or would be doing in his case. I just know that, and so I don't quite trust everything he has to say.
Paul, when it comes to Florida State and the ACC, and I know we don't have to put it up, Garrett, right now, but about the state of Florida now wants to go after the ACC, et cetera, and we'll get to that in a minute or at some point today. Is there, as an FSU guy, is there a blowback from anybody, or is the FSU fans, no matter who helps them bail, they don't care where the money comes from?
I don't think they care. I mean, I think you got to be, reticent of, how you get the money. I mean, you can't just, pull out all the stops. That's what gets you in trouble. I think that, they're going to get out no matter what, and they're going to figure out a way to pay out that no matter what, because that's why they've gone down this road. They have no intention of staying in the ACC, but yeah, I don't think they're going to just turn it over to anybody. I also think, though, that, I agree with Greg Sankey in that private equity this, private equity that. All right, you want to invest a little bit in college football and help a team get out, but, what are your real profit margins on that? Because, again, when you're buying a stock like college football, well, the stock is high right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's as popular as it's ever been and all this stuff. Well, there's going to be a time where it dips, or the team that you've invested in is not. Sports are cyclical. And, one day Alabama's going to suck. They're going to suck.
Excuse me?
They are. I mean, I don't know when it's going to be, but one day people in Tuscaloosa are going to wake up and go, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Because it's happened before. Right now people in Kansas City can't imagine a world without Patrick Mahomes, but one day he's going to be gone. So when you've invested in one team or one league or one thing, what happens when they suck? Like, again, that's going to dip in value, so you better have gotten in and gotten out before you lose money. That's where I think getting private equity involved kind of scares me, because also, depending on how much equity you sell, then you kind of turn over more control of what you're doing to somebody.
Yeah, it is all, Craig, you're right. It's all about the money. Everything that we have seen in the last 4 years since we started this show with college football is about the money. Realignment, TV deals, all of that. The realignment to get to the better TV deals. Teams moving here and there to get more money. It is all about the money, but it's still a great sport. You're shaking your head no?
No, it's just the same. Yeah, it's just it is what it is. It's kind of the same conversation about the sort of the state of things, and just looking forward to when they kind of get settled. But I know we're a far point away from that. So